Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for yet another Chelsea preview with a lot of transfer news to talk about as well. Now, a lot of people will sit here today and say 2023 is coming. A lot of people will said winter is coming just because, people like Game of Thrones. I'm saying Enzo is coming, and I'm hyped. I'm still hyped. I still hope it bloody happens because, everyone's kind of telling me that it's happening over the last 3 days. And I'm like, all right, let's make it flip and happen then. Ladies and gentlemen, I really do appreciate if you're giving us your time tonight because, everyone has different kinds of plans on New Year's Eve. And I'm also well aware that with the timing of the stream, some part of the population in the more eastern part of the world is kind of cut out because they're probably all celebrating, which is a bad thing for me, a bad thing for them if they would have liked to watch the stream otherwise. But hey, here we are. I slept longer than I planned because I was working last night and everything. So we're here an hour later than I initially wanted to be. But I'm joined by two fantastic guests once again. And Pice, I'll start with you. Is Enzo coming?
I hope so. I mean, yesterday I was saying I think it's got so far in the negotiation now that I think he probably will come. I think looking at his body language yesterday, I watched the game. It was quite interesting. He was hardly jogging. The commentators were saying, they don't question Otamendi's attitude, but Enzo's was quite funny. And even though he literally, for me, didn't look like he was trying, he nearly got 2 wonderful assists. So, I saw his over-the-top passes he made, 2 of them, and I just like, well, he's a Fabregas regen. We need him at Chelsea. So, I think he will come, but I think it's going to take some days. I think Benfica have got to analyse our proposal, and obviously talking about the structure and how to do the deal is obviously going to take some time. But I'm itching, man. I'm honestly itching because it's not. Well, I mean, it's literally unheard of. I can't remember another time where a club did a big January transfer like this. So, I want it to happen certainly.
I mean, you make a good point. Like, when was the last time any club made a January transfer this big? Now, obviously,
Bruno Fernandez.
Who? Bruno Fernandez? I guess so. It was quite a big move. It's true. But I don't know. Bruno Fernandes kind of came out of nowhere. Like, obviously, he was playing really, really well for Sporting, but I feel like he wasn't really on the world's radar. And then United signed him, and obviously especially his first year or whatever, was absolutely phenomenal at United, wasn't it? But yeah, I mean, otherwise, you're going back a while. I mean, obviously, Chelsea buyers, and maybe that's just clouding my memory now, but that's what I can think of is bloody Fernando Torres. Obviously, the money was very different, but back then, £50 million was a lot of money. Still is now, obviously, but football has slightly changed. Yes, KSA man, which probably just means you're from South Africa, I think. Yes, I have seen it. We will get to it in just a few minutes' time. Give me a second. By the way, shout out Matt in the chat, shouting out the intro song. Shout out to Jay Tomlinson. He made that a long time ago for a different channel, and I nicked it, and he allowed me to use it, and it's brilliant. So yeah, that is fantastic. Clutch then. Obviously, you, me, Pice, Jem. Was anybody else involved? We were talking at length, actually, yesterday in the group chat about this whole Enzo Fernandez situation. You're not quite as sold on the whole situation as myself and Pice are, although, to be fair, Pice is probably even more sold on it than I actually am. I'm not going to force you to talk straight into that from the very beginning. But in general, as much as you have certain reservations, you're like, okay, he's expensive. In general, our midfield has needed a revamp for a while. And by that, I'm not even trying to slag off our actual midfielders, because as people know, I rate a lot of them. But when you think about the last time we invested heavily in our midfield, it's a long-ass time ago. Like, we've invested heavily in our defense last summer. We've invested heavily in our attack continuously. We've even bought a new goalkeeper, even if he wasn't crazy expensive at the time in Edouard Mendy, right? But the last actual starting midfielder we signed, obviously we had Saul and Zakaria, but these guys aren't like, really investing in our midfield. The last time we signed anyone was Mateo Kovacic. And actually, didn't we get Kovacic and Jorginho at the same time? But just Kovacic's first year was alone. So we got them at the same time, and that was at the start of Sarri's season. Am I misremembering something? I think they quite came at the same time, didn't they? So, like, it's been a long time since we've invested in our midfield. Yeah, you can debate maybe it's a little bit too much for Enzo. And I'm not even going to, because the whole DM debate is kind of annoying me, because I'm like, I think the club is very aware that we want and need a DM, but that would be, we're not getting that right now. So at least we're getting another midfielder because it's more difficult to get two huge midfielders in the same window. So I guess if we get one now, one in the summer, we're kind of laughing from that point of view. So how do you see, without taking too much of a deep dive into Enzo itself, because there is obviously risk attached with the high fee and he's young and not so much experience and stuff. But in general, are you a fan of us investing into the midfield, even if you think a DM is what we need first? But, you know, again, you can only, like, January somewhat hinders you.
No, I agree. I mean, yeah, we do need that midfield revamp in certain ways. And the at-length conversation we had yesterday, which was like a 3-hour like debate that we just continuously had, which was everybody versus me, which is fine. Like, I understand this is that one time I'm on the fence.
I tried to back you a little bit.
It's okay. It's okay. The thing is, for me, Enzo is a great player from what we've seen so far, and I'm like, okay, fair enough. Like, and we do need a player like Enzo. Like, if we can get the best version of him, and he continues to play like he does now, which again, my whole conversation yesterday came down to, I would love to get Enzo Fernandez. $100 million on Enzo Fernandez, though, is really scary. Now, again, I understand.
It's more than that, even. Like, it's more than $100 million.
Yeah, it's scary to think, like, a guy who's played top flight for 6 months in Portugal. That's it. That's his highest level. And then you can talk about the World Cup all you want.
We'll have that Argentinian top flight before that, but just not.
Yeah. And I'm just okay.
Remember when we played Palmeiras in the Club World Cup? And I was saying we should be absolutely battering these lot, but we didn't. And everyone was saying, well, these are also good teams. River played are arguably better than Palmeiras, or at least on a similar level. So, like, they're not awful what these lot doing.
No, they're not. And I don't want it to make it sound like they're bad, but there's levels to this, right? Even from Portugal to England, it's a level. And I think it's a very dangerous game that we're playing, because we do this with every player. He's 21. If he comes in and he's not what we want him to be immediately, he's going to get slagged off. That's just how this fan base is. Well, and it's going to be a lot harder.
We have to play our role in doing these streams and try to keep this fan base under control and tell them to shut up.
But that's why I try to do it now with the players we have, because it would be no different than the players we have now. People go after Mason Mount. They go after Kai Havertz. It's like, they're all young. They're all just as young, but they're not coming for 100 million. Kai almost did, but still, let's calm down. I think, and again, it comes down to that, like, my belief is that, like, for us to actually win the Premier League, we need a big physical midfielder, like a Declan Rice, a Cancedo, something like that. And then if you pair Enzo, and again, this has to be said, Mason Mount will be the third midfielder no matter what you do. He will just be the third midfielder. If anybody in here hates Mason Mount, get over it now. He's here forever, so just stop.
The only way in which I see Mason Mount not necessarily starting every game is if we just sign so many attackers that we will have to play a 4-2-3-1, and then he might not play. That's the only way in which I see that happening. But for that, we need to sign some serious attackers. And with Bowley, you just don't know. He might do it, you know?
Yeah, so for me, I'm like, who do you pair with Mason Mount in that midfield? Because I'm like, so Declan Rice if we get Declan Rice in the summer, Enzo, fine. I'd like to see what we can do with Enzo at that point. But if we're not, like, getting a big physical DM and we're expecting Enzo to be the DM, I think that's going to be a train wreck. So that's more why I'm, like, scared about that. If we're sat here
trying to make Enzo a main DM, that won't work. But we would be stupid to do that, because that's not his profile. Like, that's not where his main strengths are. He can do it. And that's why I think that's part of what's really good about him, because even when you sign Rice might not be available every single game. And then you have multiple players that can play those positions. Not everyone's going to play it as well as each other, but he is clearly very good as a second part of a double pivot with a more defensive player next to him. He can clearly play as a number 8 in a 4-3-3. So, like, both of the formations that we seemingly want to be using at the moment, he's very well suited to. So I think I almost try to take the money out of it, because I'm like, okay, yeah, he's very expensive, but what difference in my head does it make whether we spend 60 million or 70 million or 100 million or 120 million? As long as it doesn't hamper our investments into other players, I'm not really bothered, right? Like, as long as it doesn't stop us from signing Rice and other good players that we need to close the gap to the Man City's to clearly flipping Arsenal because they're flipping on the way to win the Premier League at the moment. As long as we get still all the players that we need to close that gap, I don't really care if it's 100 million or 70 million. Like, what difference does it make? Do you know what I mean? I don't see Bowley and Benedict Bali as stupid people. So I don't think they're just gonna spend and then in a 6 months' time or a year's time realize, oh shit, we spend way too much money, now we're screwed. I just don't see them as those types of people. Like, people might disagree with the way they go about things, certain things that they do, fair enough. But I think no one can sit there and say they're stupid people, especially from a financial and a business point of view.
To be fair, they're offering Kante another.
That bothered by that. Sorry, what were you saying?
I said, to be fair, they're offering Kante a longer contract. So
actually, Kante said he was going to accept lesser terms, so I think that's why that's one happened.
Which is big news. But even then, if they're offering Kante the big wages, which I've not fully, or a new contract, which I'm not fully on board with still, because I just don't know if the guy's ever going to be fit again. Even if they do that, I'm like, well, if we have the money for it and it doesn't stop us anywhere else, I'm like, okay, does it make a difference? It might be a situation for Potter, but with squad and dealing with everything. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it doesn't really that's why I'm not gonna get too high, because the whole Lukaku situation, whether he cost 100 million or 70 million, the whole interview that he did, it would have been equally as bad. That 30 million more or less didn't change how bad the whole situation was, really, right? Like, it obviously made it look better and / worse in titles of YouTube videos and posts on social media. But in the grand scheme of things, did it make a difference whether it cost 70 million or 100 million? Not really. Pies, what's your opinion on this as I get up Ben Jacobs' tweet and we talk about that one?
On Enzo in general, or the price, or
just that it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Like, once you're talking expensive players, whether it's a bit more or a bit less, what difference does that make?
Yeah, I mean, the only point that some people might have is obviously can he handle the pressure of the English media, specifically of his price tag? Because every time he doesn't play well, obviously, the commentators or the salty people like Gary Neville or just anyone who's not like a Chelsea-based pundit will try and not give Enzo time. And, there's a couple of decent ones like, Jamie Redknapp and stuff, but a lot of them just are really, they hate Chelsea. So,
but that's what I'm trying to say, though. I agree with that. But do you think that is so different whether we buy him for 70 million or for 120 million? Won't that kind of pressure be the same? Because those numbers are both high numbers for 21-year-old.
I mean, you get a lot of pressure. Like Havertz had a lot of pressure. Obviously, he was like 75 or whatever million.
Exactly, that's my point.
But the thing is, though, Enzo would be the highest ever transfer in Premier League history. So there is like another tier to pressure. But I also don't agree with Clutch on this one that the fan base should slander him. Obviously, there's going to be a few edgy people, but I actually think people are actually more. Well, certainly the people that are on my timeline anyway, on Twitter are more sort of, I've not seen anyone that is against this move. Literally no one. Everyone's hyped, and I just don't think and as well. Can I just say no one's really sitting here and saying that he's actually 105, 110 million pound player. But
we know he's not that. That's just what you have to pay if you want.
Exactly, and this is what people like. This is why it annoys me because. No one's saying he is that right now, but he's still worth a lot of money. Just maybe not 100+ million, but you've got to play a premium in this market for the young superstars. Would you be annoyed if Chelsea buy Bellingham for 130 million? It's just I don't know, man. And by the way, anyone who's saying Portuguese league and stuff like that, Enzo's also played very, very well in the Champions League this season. So I think I'm up for it. I hope we can get it done. And I think. He's obviously a fantastic player for me. He certainly, in terms of his vision and passing, it's something that we do not have in this midfield, full stop. His vision, his ability to pick up runners is next level. I've watched so many analysis videos. I've read so many articles. I've spoke to so many people. He is going to be the best midfielder in the world. There's no doubt about that. Alongside Jude Bellingham and Jude Bellingham, really.
Depends on what your class Phil Foden at, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I'm not quite as convinced that he's going to be the best midfielder in the world, especially coming to Chelsea. You know how it goes with players that have high potential at this football club. So I'm not going to, go quite as far out the window as you just did there. But in general,
do you not think we've got the perfect manager for player development though? Like, I'd be more worried, to be honest. Like,
Yeah,
even though
but
I'm a massive fan of Tuchel, I think, I'd be more worried about him coming in under Tuchel than I was under Potter in terms of individual player, development, and also like just I don't know, like stuff like handling media pressure, like speaking to them, that type of thing. Like, I think Potter's a more suited and better manager than a lot of people that could be Chelsea managers for that type of thing.
I agree with you actually on that. I absolutely agree. I'm just not 100% sold yet. And we might well turn into that where we become a club where that is possible, which I really hope for. But so far, and we haven't seen proof of the opposite yet, hence why I'm not going to, sit here and claim it will factually be like that. Our club hasn't been a basis to allow development. That's more the problem. It's from out like talented players that we sign. Chelsea haven't really been a good hunting ground for players to develop and flourish in that sense. I agree with you that Potter will probably help that, but I'm not sure if that is purely on the manager, and we'll have to wait and see if the things around the football club, at the football club, have changed enough to allow that to happen, basically. But what you touched on, sorry, in terms of the fan base, I do agree actually with you, and I disagree with Clutch that now eventually, if it lasts too long of him not performing, I agree with Clutch. But I think actually our fan base has a tendency of arguably being too nice with new signings. Like, think about how long did it take this fan base to, as a whole, say Timo Werner is not good enough and awful? Like, how long did that take? Even the whole Lukaku thing, how many people? Like, I was even long before the interview, I was like, what is he doing? What are we doing? We do not work whatsoever with that guy in the team at all. But still, there was a lot of people in this fan base that were like backing it and behind it and saying, give it time, blah, blah, blah. So I don't fully agree with, clearly our fan base has a tendency to turn on players, but I don't think it's a case of where we do that instantly. So I think at least until the summer, probably until another 6 months after the summer, depending on signings in the summer, I think he'll be fine unless he does really, really bad. And I don't expect him to do really, really bad. But let's actually read through this tweet by Ben Jacobs, which he only released very shortly before we started streaming. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, we already have 228 people watching, which I massively appreciate. It's New Year's Eve and everything. So I appreciate you guys giving us, me, your time. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be massively appreciated. Smash the like button as well. Really helps me spread these videos out to more people. So it'd be massively appreciated. But yeah, as you can see, Ben Jacobs, I'm sure you all know, told senior Benfica leadership have been caught off guard by Chelsea's offer for Enzo Fernandez. Even after his World Cup success, the club simply were not expecting a bid of this magnitude. And it continues, which I haven't actually read yet, so I'm just going to read it. I'm learning as I read it out to you. There's a growing feeling amongst Benfica sources that Chelsea's offer is simply too strong to turn down. As previously reported, Chelsea's tactic has been to move fast and play on the fact that Benfica is ultimately a selling club. 1 billion euros plus in player sales since 2000, which is bloody a lot of money. Divided board opinion because Fernandes only joined this season and Benfica is still in the Champions League. But Chelsea are prepared to pay around 70 million euros above Fernandes' current market value. Chelsea encouraged by the engagement as talks advance. This whole market value, I'm like, but who do we always believe on the market value? Like, who decides someone's market value? Someone's market value is exactly how much the club that they play for currently is willing to sell them for. That is their market value, and whatever any other club is willing to pay for them. And lastly, also being asked whether, if successful, Chelsea can offset the Premier League record transfer fee to avoid financial fair play worries under a youth development loophole. The short answer is, I know that's all you want, is no. Fees to other clubs and agents still count on the books. Yeah, there was some story going around that if you sign players at under 22, so at 21 or under, you kind of put them into a development bracket and not just a full-on signing. That was a rumor that was flying around. But yeah, I wasn't sure until I read this, but I was always like, with the amount of football content and transfer stuff I've consumed over the years, I was very confident that I would know about this if this was a thing. And it seems to not be a thing. But yeah, I mean, what else can I say? We're kind of in a similar situation. Pies, you touched on it earlier. Obviously, he played potentially his last game for Benfica yesterday. It was a 3-0 defeat, to be fair, to Braga, who was a decent team. Bloody hell, New Year's Eve, a lot of sirens going on. But yeah, he was crying his eyes out after the game. Which now, if he had been there since his youth days, I'm like, fair enough. But the guy's only been there for 6 months, so why are you crying your eyes out? But again, South Americans, Latinos do love a bit of a cry. Argentinians even counted as Latinos? I don't know. Hopefully I didn't offend anyone. Just South Americans, right? They love a good cry. Not in a bad way. They just love a good cry. But anything like it's not nothing crazy new, right? That we've learned here. The only thing that we're learning now is that Benfica, at least part of the leadership of Benfica, are going away from the stance that they seemed to have a couple of days ago, where it was like release clause or nothing. That's the main change in the situation, right, Pies?
Yeah, it's still very difficult because depending on who you speak to, who you read, it's like a lot of people are saying different things. I think the one thing that is the consistent sort of, I guess, the news with this is that their president Rui Costa is the one that needs to change his mind, because I think there's Benfica officials and they've got like different leadership figureheads, kind of like what we've got now. They're all kind of like, yeah, we should sell him. Some of them are like, no, but Rui Costa, from what I've read, has not yet changed his mind. But the fact Chelsea are pushing, Enzo pushing, there's been negotiations. It's kind of, for me at least, seems to be leaning towards it getting done. But
Yeah.
I'm still very wary because, like, I don't know. There's been so much reporting. Like the last 2 days, like I genuinely thought it was moving at such a fast pace that I thought, yeah, it is 100% going to get done in like the next few days. But I don't know. I think we just need to just keep pushing as much as we can. But ultimately, it's down to Benfica. I mean, what more can we do? I mean, Enzo's said he wants to come, so it's up to Benfica now to decide, I guess. The only way I see us walking away from this deal and not keep trying at least would be if they just like, all right, we've decided not to do the negotiations anymore. We're going back to the whole 120 million release clause. But the fact that they even started to go club to club, like surely there's a deal to be done there. That's what I think at least. Anyway.
And I still think Enzo's reaction from yesterday and the reports that he is pushing for the move, and according to Jacob Steinberg, told Benfica he wants the move. That I think that makes a difference. If Enzo is sat there, I'm like, I mean, if Benfica accepts it, I'll happily go to Chelsea. If they don't, I'll happily stay. If that's the situation, I think that makes it more difficult from our point of view. But if he's pushing for the move as well, that makes a big difference, I think. And let me just quickly react to this. Money Maze. Two things. Number one, please tell me you're born in 1988. And if you have other reasons for having that number there, please put it in the chat so I can block you. But he says, why waste 120 million for Enzo when you can get Maddison for 60 million? Number one, how do you know how much Maddison costs? Number two, they play completely different positions. So just the fact that you said that shows that you have not a clue about Enzo Fernandez, so stop talking about it. Because what is that comparison? Like, they're completely different. Like, what are you talking about? It's like saying, buy Mount instead of Kovacic. With the different players. So what is this? I don't understand this at all. But anyways, Clutch, any reaction from your end? I mean, you're not as hyped about the whole thing, but in a sense, the fact that they're not as, adamant on release clause or nothing, I guess we've clearly made some progress over the last few days.
I think that there's a deal to be done, to be honest. You can get it done. It's just, how much are we going to keep offering when they reject it? Because obviously Benfica want to keep him for at least the rest of the season. I mean, it's not like they don't have aspirations of their own, even though they're not going to make it that far in the Champions League. I guess they might if they have him, but it's all up in the air in this moment. I think it's looking more likely than not. So, I mean, if it happens, it happens. I'm waiting to see how things go. If it happens, I'll support him. If not, well, if we can go get him in the summer, go get him and Rice or whoever else you want.
Yeah, no, I do hear what you're saying in a way. I do hear it. But I'm not, what I'm less sure about, maybe Pies, you know better than I do before we move on from this topic. I'm not sure if it's a case of them necessarily rejecting our offers in terms of the final sum. I don't think the final sum is the issue. I think it's, if anything, going to be mostly a conversation about the installments in which we're paying the fee in, like that. I think that's going to be more of the negotiation, like how much we pay up front and how much we pay next year in the summer, whatever else, right? Like, is that your assumption as well, Pies? Or do you think it will be a case of we need to offer more total? Because because we're already offering more than the release clause. I don't think that's the issue.
Yeah, no, the issue is exactly what you said. It's how are we going to pay it? When are we going to pay it? what are the add-ons going to be? For example, you might have like 5 or 10 million add-ons if we win the Champions League. Do Benfica say, no, that has to be Premier League, or that has to be one of the domestic cups? Like, there's that sort of back and forth to go to. But yeah, no, I don't think the figure itself is the issue. I think it's the structure, and again, that's been all the reporting, is that's what we're discussing, is the structure. But it's just it's just very interesting how, like, you know, some people say, like, Rui Costa is their president. He supposedly still wants, like, the full release clause, yet we're talking to their board over the structure of a deal. Like, how does that one make sense? So I don't understand. Like,
Rui
the board
Costa can get in the bin because whenever anyone packs him on FIFA, everyone's got it because they got a shit icon. So you can shut up. Do you know what I mean?
But that's the thing, though. Like, you don't talk to, you know what I mean? Like, if Chelsea was selling, for example, I don't know, Kai Havertz, right, this January, Benfica, or say Benfica were going to buy Havertz, just as a hypothetical. Benfica don't, like, talk to Vivell, for example, without Bowley's go-ahead. Like, that just doesn't happen unless there's, like, a major, like, split in between the board and the owner, or the president. He's not even the owner, so, like, how does that one work? Like, which one is it? I mean,
obviously, Benfica don't have owners like that because they're a members club, like a fan.
But do you get what I mean, though? Like, Chelsea wouldn't be negotiating with figureheads if Rui Costa was like, oh no, I've released clause or nothing. Like, they wouldn't be allowed to. So I don't really understand. Like, it's very confusing, to be honest.
I agree. I mean, Aaron Tanak put something important here in the chat that, well, I'm not sure if his exact number is precise, but he says 31 million roughly goes to River Plate as well. If we sign him, I think that number is more of a percentage of the final fee. So I'm not sure if their number is exactly like that, but a good chunk of the fee will go to River Plate for development and sell-on clause, which I'm sure they involved when they sold him to Benfica in the first place last summer. But what I'm not sure about, I'm not sure if anyone is sure about this actually, Pies, but because I've seen a few people say that that's why Benfica want the money in one go. But wouldn't the percentage that River Plate gets always be in percentages of the installment that we're paying them rather than percentages of the total fee? Because if Benfica are getting it in installments, I don't see the laws or the financial laws of football forcing Benfica to pay it all in one go if they're not getting it all in one go. Like, that would seem illogical to me and unfair. So I would assume that if we paid in installments, River Plate always get the percentage of the installments rather than the percentage of the total thing. But do you know about that at all?
I honestly, I don't know how, like, the finer financial details are going to go down. All I know is that one of the Argentinian journalists, who's very reliable, said, like, 2 days ago that I think we was willing to offer, I believe it was 125 million euros or something like that, and that River Plate would get that amount. So it was like 31 million euros in that case if they sold. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, so if we pay 130 million euros, they will get like 33 million or whatever. Yeah,
like, Benfica aren't even, like, making that much if you think about it. Like, 30 million plus is going to River Plate. Which is potentially why it will go on longer to find, like, the amount they want. But see if Chelsea do it.
We will see. Peter, I appreciate the sticker, whatever it's called, if I'm honest. I'm not sure because here on stream it doesn't tell me what the thing is called. But I appreciate the donation regardless. Shame that you didn't get involved. But does it not bother y'all that Liverpool can get Gakpo for 37 million and we're trying to buy Enzo for 130 million? Well, that is an interesting one. I didn't follow the Gakpo ones. I was surprised when I saw the fee for that. If I'm honest, I'm not sure about you, Pies and Clutch, but I was like, really?
You're talking about completely different level of talents here. Like,
different level of talents, but there's multiple things here, right? Cody Gakpo didn't have a release clause. Therefore, PSV Eindhoven can be less extreme in their demands. Number two, one didn't win the World Cup, one did. That will play a difference. And number three, contract length plays a big part. The fact that Benfica just signed Enzo means we're going to have to pay more to get him out of there. I'm not sure how much of a contract Cody Gakpo had left at PSV Eindhoven, but still, that plays a drastic difference in how much, the whole thing costs. So, but anyways, let's move on just quickly. 2 bits of transfer news. Apparently, according to Fabrizio Romano yesterday, we're going to try to hijack the Arsenal move for Mudryk. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. The Ukrainian. He's Ukrainian, right?
Yeah.
Ukrainian winger for Shakhtar Donetsk. I know Fabrizio said it, but I don't see that happening. Like, Arsenal's been trying to get him for so long. He seems to be big into going to Arsenal. They're flipping top of the league at the moment, potentially 7 points clear. Why? So I don't see that one happening. But is there any update on Badiashile at all? Because I feel like that was said to be basically about to be done about 2 days ago. We haven't really heard anything new since then.
Yeah, yesterday afternoon, Fabrizio said on a live stream that it's currently being negotiated about 5 million add-ons. So once that's done, it will be done.
Yeah, fair dues. I mean, not much more to add, really. I mean, Clutch, we already spoke about Badiashile and, all the other stuff we kind of discussed as it was. I have a little topic that I want to discuss in today's stream, which people might be surprised about, that I randomly picked it out of nothing. I just saw a tweet yesterday and I thought maybe we need to talk about this. And I'm not even sure what my opinion is yet anyway. So I'm not trying to sit there and say Havertz is great, because that's what we're going to get to. Whether Kai Havertz by this fan base is getting disrespected, or if he's actually so not good enough as a lot of this fan base makes it out to be. Because something that I saw yesterday, or came out a couple of days ago from Carefree Youth, even if he used to have me blocked, doesn't anymore, so I'll give him that shout out. Let me quickly close those messages. Not that there was anything interesting, so you didn't see anything special. But yeah, the goals in 2022 scored for Chelsea has Havertz as top with 15, second Mason Mount, and third Romelu Lukaku. Now, of course, when I said, I tweeted, like, clearly Kai Havertz is not the main problem. I'm not saying he's great and always good enough and everything, but he's got the main problem. Now, of course, people said, but how many minutes did he play? And he's obviously the played striker a lot, so you'd expect him to have the most goals, which is absolutely true. But I still think that the way people talk about him, does not reflect the fact that he scored 6 more goals than any other player for the club. Like, again, I'm not saying that he's been good enough or that he's been amazing. By no means am I saying that. But I still feel the way people talk about him, the way people, like, the lack of respect a lot of fans show, a player that plays for our club, that won at the Champions League and the Club World Cup, again, you can't live off that forever, but there's still a certain amount of respect that should be shown to those types of players, in my opinion. I don't think that's quite translated to the statistics, regardless of minutes played. Fact of the matter is, after the 10 dreadful games by Romelu Lukaku early in the year, Tuchel picked Havertz over Lukaku. Now, Potter is picking Havertz over Aubameyang. So, like, yeah, you can say Havertz isn't good enough, but if that's the case, the bigger issue is the other players not being good enough, not Havertz not being good enough, because he's playing because we have no one better. So I personally think that he's getting disrespected to some extent. I personally think that. Does it mean he's not? Does that mean he's good enough in a lot of sense? Maybe not. But, I would like to give him the excuse of, he's not playing his best position. But after his own comments, the fact that he keeps saying he's annoyed by this conversation, he can play any position and it doesn't matter to him, and he's good in every position. The fact that he says that takes the excuse, the explanation, the reasoning away that, he's not playing his best position. If he doesn't think that, we can't say that, I mean, that is quite simple to me. Clutch, what's your opinion on my standpoint on this debate? Like, again, I'm not asking you, is he good or is he bad? I'm asking you, is he bad enough that the disrespect and the criticism shown by the fan base is justified? Because I think we're just, like, going too far with how we're criticizing him. He still warrants criticism, absolutely. But I think the way people criticize him, sometimes it's more as if he scored 3 goals all year, but he scored 6 more than anybody else.
I mean, that's what this fan base does. They over-criticize. That's just what they do. I mean, if you look at most tweets, when you bring up any one of these top, like in our score, like our top 4 scorers for 2022, each one of them gets slandered on a daily basis. Heavily, not even just a little bit, heavily, all of them. All of them know they're not good enough. I think people it comes down to, if somebody's not Eden Hazard, they get slandered. And people just don't understand. Like, I'm sorry, he's gone. That player doesn't exist. We have to grow that player again. You're just not going to buy unless you go and buy Mbappe. And that's what people want. Like, even Leao, you'll have to, at some point, give him the time to become that superstar player. So, yes, he does get disrespected, but so does all of them. And I
Do
think
you
for
think
me,
that? Do you think that they all get equal disrespect? I think Havertz, Mount, at the moment, get the thick of it. Pulisic had the thick of it, and obviously Lukaku and Werner, but Werner has left now. So I think as of right now, because Pulisic didn't always get a fair chance, and I think people clocked that at some point, people started to be a little less harsh, and therefore I think Havertz and Mount are the two that get it by far the worst for the last 6 months, at least, I would say.
I would say the reason that is because Havertz and Mount are always playing now.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's why they get it more. If Pulisic played more and he didn't perform, he would get it. I mean, people still blame Pulisic for Tuchel leaving. People hate him for that, and I don't know why, because it is what it is. It's not like he has anything to do with it.
For Tuchel leaving, but you know,
I've not seen that ever, by the way.
I see it quite a bit, but again,
you see too many Americans, they don't count.
I'm not allowed to say that out loud. But yeah, no, he gets over disrespected. I do think if we are going to play Havertz anywhere, it's going to be at a 9 at Chelsea. Maybe you can slide him back as a 10, but even then, I don't really think he would be a decent 10. And for me, if you play Havertz, you just have to play him at the 9. I do think he can become a good goal scorer. Yeah. But
I mean,
also,
I think better in the front two, like two strikers, but we're probably not going to play that. So, you know,
and nor do I think it'll ever work in the Premier League. But again, I see Havertz a lot like Firmino for Liverpool, that kind of player. He's the link up. He's the guy who makes the movements, so the other players around him can come in and clean up the goals. But we haven't been playing wingers, so that doesn't really work. So I think there's a lot to the conversation that people don't want to listen to. In short, yes, he gets disrespected.
First, just let me quickly highlight this comment from Yarrow. He says 15 goals, the top goal scorer in this period is honestly embarrassing. And this, by the way, I fully, completely, wholeheartedly agree with. That's the issue. Not Havertz, that Havertz doesn't score enough. The fact that our team doesn't score enough. And that we seriously need to work on that. The fact that Haaland has more Premier League goals this season than Chelsea is insane. I mean, obviously now he has a game more, but now he has 2 more goals than we have because he scored today, even though they only drew. But yeah, Arsenal are 3-0 up. It's bloody insane. I mean, the only positive about it is because I hate, obviously, Arsenal. I don't want them to win the league at all. The only positive about this is, well, if Arsenal win the league, those of us that are backing this whole project and process situation that we're starting with Graham Potter, at least we can say, well, look, this is what happens when you trust the process, I guess. Because if Arsenal now fall off and don't even get top 4 theoretically, then obviously that argument really doesn't stand, does it? In all honesty. One other thing I want to mention, someone says, oh, he's 23, blah, blah. He is 23. The same age as Cody Gakpo, who Liverpool just signed, by the way. The same age. I think people sometimes, I know we've had Havertz for a while and he's been talented for a while. And yes, his development definitely wasn't quick enough, good enough, and just upwards trajectory style enough in the recent years. Absolutely. But not everyone develops at the same rate and always continuously. It's not a linear curve. You will develop, then you might be stagnant for a couple of years, then you will develop again. Kai Havertz will not necessarily remain this type of player just forever, But Pice, what is your opinion on this? Fairs?
I've made my opinion on this very clear. I don't think Havertz has delivered to the expectations that I thought he would. I mean, there's multiple factors to it, of course, but no, for me, he's way too inconsistent. I would honestly sell him in the summer. But that's just my opinion. I don't think he should be our long-term 9. I don't think he should be our long-term 10, right wing, whatever, centre mid. I don't think he's good enough, in my opinion. I obviously love him, the fact that he scored the goal in the Champions League final, but even that I think is kind of weird because people say it like, Azpilicueta and Ben Chilwell and Rudiger and all that didn't make vital clearances, so it was a team effort.
As we learned from Chelsea, bro, the hard part for us is scoring, not defending.
I'm not going to flip flop on it. I personally don't think he's good enough. I feel like,
I think that's fair though, right? I don't think when you explain it that way, the way you're just doing it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And you don't even then come into what I would class as him getting disrespected. You just have that opinion of him, and that's okay. Like I still think it's a slightly harsh opinion because I'm like, how can you have that opinion about any 23-year-old? Because every 23-year-old can still improve drastically. and there's clearly talent in him. I think most people will probably agree with that at least.
Has he improved? Has he improved?
No, he hasn't, and I completely agree that that's a real issue. But has that been his fault, or is Potter going to enable him to improve, just like you just touched on with Enzo Fernandez?
He was literally, remember that period under Tuchel where everyone, like, they were desperate for him to start the 9. Someone was talking about Firmino, how he was linking the play up. That's what he was doing. He was dropping deep. Everyone actually. When we go back to this period, I specifically remember everyone was okay with him not scoring goals because he was doing so much else. He was pressing like a madman. He was linking up play. He was going out wide. He was making the right movements so other people get in positions. For me, he doesn't do any of that anymore. Like,
no, he does. First half against Bournemouth, he did exactly that, bro.
But Bournemouth, exactly. That's the issue. He does. Yeah. He's not consistent. I would. Yeah,
but I'm just saying, well, in the last game, regardless of who it was against.
But that's the problem, Laurenz. For me, he's regressed more than anything because he had a long period under Tuchel where he was very good every game. He's not good every game anymore. He's not. Honestly, even if he scores tomorrow, next game, City, whatever. I honestly. I don't care because I believe he's too inconsistent. I don't think he'll.
But the way, don't you think though that the way you just said about now we have Graham Potter that should allow players with high potential to flourish more at the football club? Don't you think that
I don't see the potential. I don't see the potential. Okay. I don't see what he's good at. He's not a good dribbler. He's an inconsistent finisher. He's good in the air sometimes. I mean, he scored quite a few headers. You know, I don't
he's
know,
good at being decent and good at a lot of things, but not great at any one thing.
I don't know. I don't see it as much as other players. I don't see it as much as other players personally.
Fair. Hey, I think that's okay. But like I say, the way you talk about it, I don't think it's disrespect as such, but the way certain fans talk about him is very much disrespectful. And I think, I think that needs to stop for every player, by the way, not just Kai Havertz. I just picked him out as to have the discussion about. But
I mean, you're always going to get people who say players are shit. I mean, a few people on Twitter say that Thiago Silva needs to go and he's, old and whatever. Like, it's just stupid. There's no, like, unless you actually get into a conversation with anyone, there's not usually any substance to what they're saying on Twitter. So,
yeah, no, it's true. It's true. Pice does need to head off in about, now 15 minutes time. So that's why we're going to go straight into the team for tomorrow to talk about the game against Nottingham Forest. Actually, we do have a quiz prepared by Bertram, which we didn't have the other day, but we do have today. Let's see what maybe myself and Clutch will just go through that one at the end after Pice has left. Just quickly, talking about Nottingham Forest, where do they sit in the league currently? 19th with a whole 13 points from 16 games, 1 point above Southampton, who are bottom. But they did also get a pretty good result against Liverpool just before the World Cup. Wasn't that directly before the World Cup? Sorry, I'm so confused. Because I watched the press conference by Graham Potter, and he literally said, they had a really good result against Liverpool before the World Cup. And now I look at it. I guess they didn't play Liverpool too long before the World Cup. 22nd of October, they beat Liverpool. But they since then also lost 5-0 to Arsenal. Drew 2-0 to Brentford, to be fair, that's not a bad thing. They beat Spurs in the League Cup. They beat Palace. And now they lost 3-0 to Man United. So as much as this is their first game back in a home game, and for promoted sides, that also always plays a big difference. Surely we have to go into this game expecting us to win, right? And Clutch, do you think, how many changes, if any, do you think we should be doing from the last game?
Well, one obvious one because we can't because he's injured. As much as I would not want to play Aspie there. Actually, you know what? I'll make a shout for something else later. But
not a lot.
Maybe anyway. One, huh?
Not a lot of changes, regardless.
No, one, maybe two.
Okay, Pice, what about you? I mean, obviously the one with Aspie instead of Reece James most likely is forced, of course. But otherwise, is there many changes that you'd make? Obviously, we'll get to the midfield. It's probably where the main one you will see. It's just a question of will that change our formation and style? That's going to be interesting. What do you think, Pice?
No, we need to build on consistency. I'd only make 1 or 2 changes. I think there's a discussion for a couple of players, but I'm not sure if they'll get in for me. I think we need to just build on something now. That will give the team confidence if we can do that.
Yeah. Obviously, our next game after the Forest game tomorrow is against Man City, but it's also on the 5th of January. So we do have quite a few days in between those for recovery. So I don't think we need to necessarily rotate heavily to make sure everyone's fit. I think from that point of view, it's going to be fine. But let's get into it from the goalkeeper position. Mendy might still not be available anyway. We found out since then that he's picked up some sort of like bone injury around here. That's how Graham Potter explained it. He didn't mention the bone, he didn't say collarbones or something here, top of the rib cage or whatever. He picked up at the World Cup. That's why he wasn't on the bench against Bournemouth. But I'm pretty sure, regardless of Mendy being fully fit or not, Kepa is the one in goal. So, and I think we can all agree with that. I don't have it ready to highlight now, but he also has the highest save percentage in the Premier League right now. So we don't have time to get into that discussion. But hey, if he keeps doing this until the end of the season, I also wouldn't be surprised if Chelsea actually changed their mind on buying a new goalkeeper if Kepa keeps this up. But Kepa for tomorrow, yeah, Pies?
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Clutch, you agree, I assume?
Yes.
Good. Centre back 2. Are we going to make a change here? Potentially like a little rest for Thiago Silva, considering he was already limping most of the first half against Bournemouth? Or do you stick with Thiago Silva and Koulibaly, Clutch?
I would probably stick with it for me. I don't know if Potter will, because maybe he's putting in Chalobah, but I would stick with Koulibaly and Silva.
Yeah, and I would probably agree. I mean, it's difficult for me to judge, obviously, because I'm not there. I don't know why he was limping in the first half. I don't know if there's if there's even the smallest concern, I would not start him. But I don't know if there is. So, and he finished the whole game, and we had a good couple of days since the last game. And a good couple of days to the next game. So I don't see why you wouldn't start him. Pies, what's your thoughts?
Sorry, what was that? Who are you talking about?
Just, would you stick with Silva and Koulibaly, or would you put someone else in the back?
No, yeah, I would 100%. I think Forest are really, really good at set pieces as well. So I think we need Koulibaly's height in there, and Silva's. I mean, Silva, if he's fit, it just starts every game for me anyway. So yeah.
First, all right then. Let's get to the fullbacks. Cucurella keeps his spot. I'm pretty sure we're all going to agree. Now, obviously, there's maybe a small shout for Lewis Hall, but I think Lewis Hall has mostly impressed at left wing back rather than at left back, and I think Cucurella was super good in the last game. So I would find it mental if anyone says don't play Cucurella. Pies, you agree? Yeah, I assume.
Yeah, 100%. The back four is pretty set for me. I'd be surprised if we do anything different. And I hope Potter does keep this stability as well, because I think obviously don't have time for it now, but one of the, not criticisms, but something that could obviously just make results a bit flip-floppy is he does have the tendency to change too much. I know a lot of people have said that. Even Brighton fans said that. So I hope we actually stick with something for a few games. I think we'll get positive results. I don't see why not, you know? So, yeah.
It's a weird one. Obviously, if Brighton fans say they will have a much more fair and bigger sample size to judge that by, but I think for Chelsea, it's almost a bit harsh to hold that against them, because we've had constantly new injuries. And when you actually look back at his first few games, did he actually change it that much? I feel like when we were on that unbeaten run and we played well, I don't think he actually made too many changes, but only when we started having one injury after the other. But then he obviously has to make changes. What else is he going to do? But Clutch, you agree on Cucurella keeping his spot?
Yep.
Fair dues. Now, I will throw something out there, and I'm not necessarily saying I will do that, but is it as clear with Aspie, or is there a shout to be made for Chalobah to start at right back? And let me quickly explain, because if you've paid enough attention, and I'm sure you guys have seen it, when we build from the back, we did it in the last game, we actually shifted to a bit of a back three. And Cucurella stayed a bit more out here, but Reece James was way further forward, arguably almost like a wing-back in possession, while Cucurella stayed here until we had the ball up in the final third, and then he pushed up. So you could, theoretically, if you didn't want to play Aspie, do the very same thing, just switch it and make Cucurella the more offensive one, which maybe isn't ideal because it means Thiago Silva needs to be pushed a little bit wide, which he's not so comfortable with. And you could play Chalobah as this kind of very defensive kind of fullback that only pushes higher up once we get into the final third, and then kind of build in the back three this way. Is that a case that either of you, and I'll start with you, Pies, would find interesting as a potential rather than Aspie? Or do you think, as much as we miss Reece James, it still has to be Aspie over something like this?
Sorry, hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
I heard you say Aspi. I don't know what's going on with my mic. We're just talking about a right back, Chalobah. Would
Yeah,
I
I'm
go
saying
with Aspi?
if you know how the last few games, well, in the last game, let's focus on that mostly. We built in a back three basically,
Yeah.
with Cucurella obviously staying deep as kind of a third player, not fully here, but like here. And when we had Reece James here, but if you just let Cucurella do the offensive fullback part and then play Chalobah over there's, I guess, a shout that that's how you don't necessarily have to play Aspi. Would you consider that, or is it just Aspi for you?
No, I'd consider it, but I do think Aspi's going to start.
Yeah, I think so as well. Even
Yeah,
with Aspi, I would
it's
maybe
interesting,
hope
though,
we
isn't it?
do that, by the way, that we let Cucurella push and not Aspi.
Yeah, no, it's definitely interesting because Chalobah does have the pace, but I'm not sure whether he'd be too comfortable. I think Aspi's, he's a more experienced player. It's an away game as well, which I think, maybe starting Chalobah in an uncomfortable, unfamiliar position might not go too well. So I would start Aspi, but it's something to consider, I think, yeah.
Okay. First, Clutch, what's your opinion on this? Like, is it a consideration for you at all to play Chalobah there in the way I explained it? Or does it have to be Aspi for you now that Reece is out?
Well, when I said earlier I was going to make a shout, my shout was going to be Chalobah at right back. But the more I sat here and we were talking about the center backs, I'm like, other than Chalobah, we don't have a backup center back. So I'd rather not put him out there and
That's
then
true.
somebody
That's a
get
good point.
hurt and have to bring on, I think the
I mean,
other one is
we have,
Bashir Humphreys. But
yeah, Bashir Humphreys. Yeah.
so I don't really want to have to. I don't want to have to utilize him if we don't have to. So I unfortunately, it's just going to have to be Aspie.
I agree, and my concern with it would be that if Silva has to be the wide centre back in parts of the game, because if the right back does this rather than the left back, then obviously Silva has to push out. Would you then switch Koulibaly and Silva around? We know Koulibaly isn't that comfortable, especially out on the left either. So maybe it's just better to stick with it like this. Now, I think this one we can keep very, very short. Jorginho, I'm sure we're all going to be in agreement, but the question I'm going to ask you guys. Now, in the last game, it was certainly a mix of 4-2-3-1 and 4-3-3. Mount certainly pushed up as a 10 at times, but in certain parts of the field, depending on where the ball was usually, he was also clearly a left centre mid and Zakaria a right centre mid, so it kind of shifted between both. Do you have does it change much for you? I assume you're just going to agree with Jorginho. Does Kovacic start instead of Zakaria? And does that change the shape? Or do you keep it the same and just put Kovacic in instead of Zakaria? Does Kovacic even start instead of Zakaria, considering he's been in training like 3 days after a week or so off? Like, is that even smart to throw him straight into start? Or do you start Zakaria and bring Kovacic on?
I'd start Zakaria, but I would definitely bring Kovacic on. I just don't know whether I trust Graham Potter to get the subs right based on last game.
Yeah, and also not do them flipping too late.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The timing was for me too late. So look, I think Kovacic is more than capable of starting, but I think Zakaria deserves to start, to be honest. But the shape will be interesting. I mean, yeah. To be honest, if I had to predict what he'd do, I think he will start Kovacic. Just because it's like how he started Reece James. Like, obviously Kovacic is a very important player. So yeah, I think he will. But he has been praised in Zakaria.
Kovacic is the much better player between him and Zakaria. But I genuinely think that for the balance in our midfield, it's better if Zakaria plays. I genuinely believe that at the moment. The way we're trying to play, especially now not having Reece James, I think having that physical, tall, fast midfield option in Zakaria, I think plays a big difference in how we handle oppositions. Do you agree with that, Pies? At all? Like, I know you're a big fan of Kovacic, so this is probably a crazy thing for you, in your opinion, for me to say. But I honestly feel it, kind of. Which is harsh on Kovacic because it's not his fault whatsoever. It's just that the other midfield options don't work. Like, it's like, as much as Jorginho and Kovacic can work together, absolutely, we've seen that plenty of times. I still think both of them kind of, I feel like you lack that tall, big, fast player.
Yeah, it depends on, I think, opposition and who you're playing. I mean, tomorrow what I know is that Forest, they're quite physical in midfield, so I do think Zakaria would be
it's a away game and stuff, so I feel like it would kind of suit.
But then you've also got like, to flip it on the other side, you've also got like, they've got Yates, who is very, very slow. Mangala's not the quickest. Like, you could have Kovacic just easily breaking their press, I think. So I don't know, like what you gain with Zakaria, you lose on the ball massively.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, isn't it? Like, it's what do you go for? Like, what do you prioritize against the opponent you're playing? Is what I would say. So I'll leave that to Potter to decide, and we'll see if he gets it correct by the way Zakaria plays. I guess if he does start.
I guess so. Brighton got one back. And Pies, have you seen this Revelo news on Enzo that someone in the chat said there apparently is?
Yeah, I did see it. But I don't know. He's good for Spanish news, but I'm just gonna wait. Like, there's been so much.
It's okay. We don't have to pretend like it's fact. But what
I've seen it. I've seen it. He's a good source, but I'm waiting.
But what is the news? Because I haven't seen it.
So he said we're one step away from closing the signing of Enzo Fernandez. After realising Jude Bellingham was impossible in January, Chelsea then turned to Enzo Fernandez. Fee is close to £110 million with add-ons included. Benfica opened the door to the transfer. Total agreement expected first week of January. So let's see what happens.
All right. Well, I hope he's right. Even if he might not have the best track record, I hope he does this time. Clutch, back to the midfield. Is this the midfield three you'd play, or would you play Kovacic? Like, what is your opinion on that Zakaria Kovacic situation that we're kind of in now?
Well, I mean, I kind of explained it when we were talking about Enzo a little bit earlier, didn't I? When I said we need a big physical midfielder. That's something that brings success within this league, obviously. Is
but
you need
somebody... no one thinks Ruben is it. So it's not purely big and physical, because Ruben is big and physical. But Ruben still doesn't help our balance the way Zakaria does.
I would also say that Zakaria is probably better defensively.
No, absolutely. I'm just saying that's what I'm trying to say. It's not purely about physical and tall.
It's also about what they can bring within that, because you're being physical. Ruben is a big physical offensive player. Zakaria is a big physical defensive player, that's what you need.
Zakaria is probably a bigger goal threat somehow.
Yeah, we're not gonna bash Ruben right now. I'm not gonna do that. Not on your channel. I'll go somewhere else and do it. No.
What's your words?
I think Ruben's very good at what Ruben does, which is breaking the lines and dribbling. And unfortunately, I think Kovacic is that, but better. And Zakaria is big physical as a defensive side, where that's what you technically need. You need somebody who's going to be a little bit more defensive. When they are going to be defensive, you have to be a little bit more physical. Physical doesn't really work offensively unless you're like a striker. And even then, it didn't really work out for Lukaku, did it? So
I think that's a bit harsh to say that physical offensive players can't work at all. De Bruyne doesn't have the big shape, but in my opinion, De Bruyne is a physical offensive player. But it doesn't matter. Just super quick before I let Pies finish off the forwards, and so you can head off. This comment by Tank, I personally disagree with it, but is it, in your opinion, Clutch, at all a shout? I just don't see Zachary as this lone DM person.
I don't either. And I don't see Zakaria as like the guy to control the game. I think he works well with a Jorginho.
Okay. And yes, Matt H in the chat says...
Also, Jorginho was insane last game, so it would kind of be harsh on him.
Absolutely. Pies, before I let you finish off the forwards, this comment by Tank, at all a consideration for you?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Zakaria is good enough for receiving the ball. It's difficult because I've not watched too much of Nottingham Forest, but if they've got, I don't really know too much about how they press, so I think, I don't know, to be fair. I think it depends. If they press really, really well, which, I mean, we'll only find out tomorrow, I would say no, but if they don't, I think Zakaria could play there, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But forwards, would you just keep it the same from the start of the last game, or would you throw anyone in there, mate?
No, I'd keep it the same. I think it worked well, so why would you change it, in my opinion?
Exactly. Like, I know I was very much adamant that Omari Hutchinson should start ahead of the Bournemouth game, but all of Pulisic, Sterling, and Havertz played very well, especially in the first half. So I firmly say it again. He better come on this time, and I keep saying it until he does. But I think Potter would actually lose my shit a little bit if he does not play the same front three. It would be kind of insane. Like, I know maybe Ziyech has a little bit of a shout after a good World Cup, But no, Pulisic, Sterling, Havertz, they all played well. They all should stay in the team. Like we need to, when we have the opportunity and haven't played 3 months straight, like we've had a little bit of a break. A lot of these players have had a little bit of a break. And we have a few days between games at the moment. We need to build some consistency in the team. Like I'm not saying you have to have the same team every game. That's impossible, especially with the amount of games we play. You will have to rotate at times. But when you don't overdo it. I think that's a really, really crucial thing. Anything else you would like to add to that, Pice, before I let you go?
No, don't think so. Been a good stream. Good to join you guys again. And I mean,
just lastly, score prediction for tomorrow, bro.
I'll go 2-1 Chelsea. I think Forest will be a difficult game. I think they'll score second, and then we'll score later on, I reckon.
Okay. Fair dues, Pice. That we have an expression in German which basically means as much slide into the new year well. So do that as much as it's not an expression in English.
Yes.
So yeah, enjoy that. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you tomorrow. Probably 4 player rates. Pice, have a good night, and I'll chat to you soon.
Yeah, hopefully after a win, boys. See you later.
Exactly. Take care, bro.
Later, boy.
Clutch. Your opinion. Stick to the same front three. I assume you're going to say yes.
Yeah, I mean, if you take any one of these guys out, you're going to ruin confidence, and you can't ruin confidence in this moment. Now, it is a little bit harsh on Ziyech. Yeah, I agree. He had a really good World Cup. Probably deserves to have some time. But unfortunately for him, he made it. Unfortunately, he made it a little bit farther in the World Cup, which means he wasn't able to get back in time to actually have that opportunity that Sterling and Pulisic have. But they both got this opportunity, and they took it with both hands. So you can't just take it away from them like that. I get that Ziyech has had a good World Cup, but they're two guys who are very much confidence players, especially Pulisic. If you do that to Pulisic, you might as well sell him in January because you're going to lose him. You got to give him time. If he plays well, keep playing him. Yeah. And even if he has a bad game,
and last game he had a good game anyway. So
yeah, so it's like you gotta keep giving these players the confidence that they have, that mistakes and stuff are not going to put them down. So even if you play well, hey, you keep your spot. And I do think this is our best front three, if I'm being honest with you. And if we have an opportunity to keep building on it, I think we could get really, really good in certain aspects. I don't think this is a front three that's going to score you 30, 40 goals like a City front three would, but I think they could do some damage, and they can start to push back towards the top 4.
Sorry, I was just laughing by whatever Man Slim said. F to the chat, we don't matter. You do matter, but yeah, Arsenal 4-1 up. This is kind of splitting my soul apart, honestly, because like I say, on the one hand, I'm like, okay, at least there's proof that a project can work. But on my days, Arsenal winning the league. I also really, for my opinion, fair play that they are making Odegaard work, because obviously Odegaard was the super kid that signed for Real Madrid at 15 and it basically never made it there. Goes on loan to Real Sociedad and actually plays well. Then didn't he come back to Real Madrid?
He came back to Madrid and they didn't play him. I mean, which it makes sense because, I mean, you got Mudryk and Kroos at that time who were flying, and Casemiro is just going to play the DM role in that regard.
Yeah, but they still played Asensio at times, and they played at times. I'm like,
I mean, I've always been a massive fan of Odegaard, and even if this is blasphemous to say, he's the only Arsenal player I actually like because I think he's really good.
But it does piss me off that he's their captain. Like,
how
are you on the way to win the Premier League from at the moment, and Odegaard is your captain? Like, that just almost triggers me, genuinely, the fact that you can be in the contention to win the Premier League with a captain like Odegaard. And maybe, but I don't know much about him. Maybe he's actually a great captain, and I'm just not aware. But the type of play he is, I wouldn't have expected him to be an ideal captain, but hey, it's working for them, so what can I say? But there you go. Yeah, I agree. This has to be the front three. I hope Hutchinson comes on. I hope Ziyech comes on. Really, just bring on both. Why not, for the banter? And I would stick also to that midfield three. We didn't really mention Mount, but he played very well in the last game. Scored a good goal. So why would he not play again? And yeah,
I just assume he plays every game. So.
In the game, that's all I'd say, really, if I'm honest. So. That's my perspective on it. Ladies and gentlemen, before myself and Clutch give you our score predictions, we will do a little Chelsea quiz. It won't take too long because it's just us two. By the way, if you're still here, I appreciate it massively. Subscribe if you haven't already. But on the road to 20,000 subscribers, every new subscriber counts, and it really means a lot. So if you're new here, please hit that big red subscribe button. It's just one click of a button. And hey, maybe you'll just enjoy the future streams as well. Hit the notification bell as well. Select all so you don't miss any future streams. And again, smash the like button and, help me spread these videos out to more people. Let me bring the slideshow of the quiz up on screen. I'm not sure how good or bad or difficult this is going to be. I feel it's going to be difficult because it's against Forest, and I genuinely, other than, did we play them like a couple of years ago, like a cup or whatever? Otherwise, I can't even remember the last time we played against Forest. Are they spelled with 2 R's? If they're spelled with 2 R's, I've been spelling their name wrong the whole time.
It is not. But we're just going to let it happen.
Okay, so Bastion unfortunately spelled Forest wrong. I was like, sorry, what's happened? But anyway, let's see what the first question is. Quizmaster Bertram is no math genius, but maybe someone in the stream is. Well, I'm not. Forest have signed a ton of players in the summer, and our season hasn't gone as well as we all would have wished. Question is, if you take the numbers of Forest summer signings and minus that from the amount of points we have, what number are we left with? Bro, I have not a clue what number of points we're on. Are we on like 24 points?
Yes, we are at 24 because we're tied with Brighton.
Yes, exactly. And they signed, I think, just over 20. So I would say it's 2. Because I don't think they signed 26 players. I think it's just over 20. So I think the +2 difference makes the most sense. What would you think?
My dyslexia is kicking in, and math is not easy right now. We'll go with 2. I don't know.
Okay, let's see. I mean, chat, obviously get involved. I can't just read all your answers on every single time, but get involved and, you'll know whether you're right or not and just play along. It's fine.
They signed 20 players.
-2 as far as I've made. But isn't that +2 then? If you... did we take off our 24 off their 22? Okay, fair enough. I thought we're taking off their signings off our points. But so we got it right. We just got it the wrong way around in a way. But I will count that as we got it right. Next question. Nottingham is famous for many things, like the story of Robin Hood, but also having 2 clubs which stadiums are located only 270 meters from each other. So which club houses that stadium? I don't
Notts County?
I
I'm gonna go 2.
I was talking to Pice last night when I was deciding what to put on the thumbnail of the stream, like how to shorten Nottingham Forest, because obviously it's too long to put the whole thing. So I was like, do I just put Forest? Do I put Notts Forest? Do I put just Nottingham? Do I put Nottm Forest? And he didn't.
I'm going to go with Notts County. I don't know. I think that's what it is. I think I remember seeing that when I was Google mapping one day. I cannot imagine a Port Vale, because Nottingham is not by the coast, I'm pretty sure. So how can Port Vale? Nottingham is like
that makes no
southeast
sense.
of Manchester.
No, exactly that. So surely they wouldn't have a club called Port Vale because there's no port anywhere near. So, and Barrow, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to cheat in the chat and see what people have said just to, see if anyone's got it right. Someone said Barrow, someone said Port Vale. Kante went 2, so that's not county. You go 7, whatever that means. Someone else said 2. Not sure how many English people we have in the chat today, so I'm not really sure how many of you guys are going to be likely to be right. I don't even like. I feel like it's not Notts County because otherwise Pice wouldn't have said that yesterday. And if Pice doesn't know this is a right stinker, he's English. Should know that. Forest Green Rovers, surely not. They won't have 2 clubs called Forest in a place called Nottingham. That'd be logical. So I'm just going to guess Barrow, but I have not a clue. It is Notts County. Okay, Pice, you're in the mud. I can't lie, bro. Yeah, absolutely.
Let's go.
He did actually know this, but
Let's go. I thought I remember. My controller just fell.
Well, but look at how close the stadiums are. Sick though. I like it.
Well, it's like a war. They could just kick the ball to each other.
No, exactly. You just punt it from goalie to goalie. When we run out, when you're like at the bridge, the pitch is too small. Let's just play both. Punt it between.
Exactly.
Gone.
Oh no.
I can go back to it.
No, you're good. You're good. Keep going.
All right.
I just said exactly.
What? Tell me.
I just said exactly. That's it.
Okay, sorry. Brighton got another one back. Come on, Brighton. Turn it around. Big 4-4. Which of the following current Chelsea legends have actually donned the famed red shirt? Bro, I knew it already that a Forest quiz will be difficult because I've not a clue. No, actually, I do know this one now that I read all the answers. Which of the following current Chelsea legends or just Chelsea legends have actually donned the famed red shirt? Joe Cole, Ron Harris, Dennis Wise, or John Terry? Clutch, do you know? Because I know.
I don't. I know Joe Cole didn't. I think John Terry did.
Yeah. It is John Terry. He went on loan from Chelsea to Forest. I think that's where he made his professional debut, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong here, I look like a right mug, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. John Terry played 6 games for Forest on loan in 2000 before he thankfully came back to Chelsea. See, there you go. See, I do know some shit, especially when it comes to my favorite player. All right then. Oh yeah.
But if you would have got that wrong, we would have it. We'd have had to have some questions.
No, yeah, it's true. It's absolutely fair. Oh, yeah, I remember him. And we have to figure out who he's talking about from these clues that we're getting, I think. Other than Chelsea, I have played for Fulham and Palace. Right. But what I don't know is, what are the stipulations? Are we talking all players? Do they have to be active? Do they have to be current Chelsea players? Could there be any player? I don't know. So from clue 1...
This narrowed it down to like 20 players.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right, so let's see what clue 2 is. I'm 6'4" and I've scored 7 goals for Chelsea. 6'4" and 7 goals for Chelsea. And he played for Fulham and Palace. Aha, I know who it is.
Do you?
Yeah.
I have no idea. What's clue 3?
Do you want the next clue?
Yeah.
I scored a great goal against Frankfurt in the Europa League semi-final, and I carried the title of being Lauren's favourite player.
I know who it is.
The third clue kind of gave it away about him. I can't lie. But yeah, it is Ruben Loftus-Cheek, of course, on loan at Palace and on loan at Fulham.
He's 6'4".
Wow. He's massive. He's absolutely.
I thought he was like 6'1", 6'2". Fair enough.
No, he's huge. He's huge. I mean, I think right now he's probably the tallest player in the whole squad. Because I don't even think Mendy is 6'2". I think Mendy might be 6'3". Sorry, I don't even think Mendy is 6'4". But Badiashile should hopefully come. So, he's 6'4" as well. So, but yeah, almost a bit of a shame that he only scored 7 goals. That sounded a bit little. So, Ruben, come on. We need at least 3 goals for the rest of the seasons because I want you to at least have 10 before you potentially leave in the summer. All right, then. Is there more? The Chelsea way. So, basically, we have to figure out who the player is from this. And again, I know actually very quickly. Do you know already as well?
No, I do not.
Okay, just to pay attention to all clubs around Chelsea. Like, what country are they? So, and then make your.
Oh, is this I can't remember his name.
Him.
Why can't I remember his name? I do know, but I can't remember his name. It's give me a second. He was like number 14, right?
Yeah, he did. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why can't I remember his name? Schuller.
Schürrle, that's exactly it. No, I forget. Andre Schürrle, yes. Played at Mainz, played at Leverkusen, then came to Chelsea. Played at Wolfsburg, which I still, because Wolfsburg at the time weren't very good, so I still don't really understand why he went to Wolfsburg then. And then he went to Dortmund and was even worse. And then Fulham alone, Spartak Moscow, and then retired before even hitting 30, I'm pretty sure. So, that's that.
Oh, poor guy.
Andre Schürrle, there you go. As you can see. But what a guy, especially in that title-winning season. And at Jose Mourinho in 2014-15, he was phenomenal. So, brilliant. Big fan of him. Golden goal scorer. The last part. Ooh. My girlfriend was at this game, actually. Insane game. Pissed me right off that we didn't win it. I was at the reverse fixture in Rome, where we lost 3-0. So, that was even better. No, I do know, actually. I do know who that is. I know from the picture, and I remember the goal. It was a great goal, mind you. A great, great goal. But still not goal of the game because Edin Dzeko's got one of the most outrageous volley goals I think I have ever seen in that game. I'm not sure if you remember it, Clutch, that volley goal by Dzeko. If not, after this stream, go and watch Dzeko goal versus Chelsea. Honestly, unbelievable. But do you have a clue who just scored this goal, bro? Maybe from the picture?
Trying to think. My brain not working now. If I were to get, I don't know.
I'll give you a hint. He is a defender that in certain times, under certain different managers, played in midfield as well.
Luis?
Exactly that. He scored it was a wonderful, low.
Bro, his body type does not look like
left
Luis's
foot,
body
or maybe
type.
was it the right foot? I can't remember. But great curler from distance. It was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. But yeah, David Luiz. Let me quickly just get to the next slide so we see confirmation. David Luiz in the 11th minute. We did put us 1-0 up, man. We were 2-0 up and we only drew 3-3 after they went 3-2 up. So, what a game. Hey, mental. But hey, here we are. Golden goal scorer David Luiz with a thunder bastard. Thanks for playing, and have a happy new year. Have a happy new year. Clutch, the last thing I want from you before we round this one out, we're not going to keep this too long. Score prediction for tomorrow, mate.
This is pressure because I got it right last time.
Hey, just get it right this
3-0.
time.
3-0.
3-0. I'm a fan. I mean, if United can beat them 3-0, surely we can beat them 3-0. I would love, by the way, I'm not sure if any of you guys saw it, but I think the 1-0 by United by Marcus Rashford, that corner routine, I really want us to score a goal like that. Like, they basically, Eriksen whizzed the corner low, like basically like a pass into the box, and somehow got it past all the Forest players. Rashford on the end of it and smashed it in. Like, I love those types of goals. Like I said, I love it. They won't always work because it's purely just does the opposition defend properly or do they not? But yeah, I would love for us to score goals like that. So please, Anthony Barry, can you sort out some corner piece, set piece routines? That would be nice. But yeah, my score prediction. I said last game, what did I say? I said 3-1, I feel like. You said 2-0, Pi said 4-0. I said 3-1. Now, the last game did make me kind of a lot more hopeful that we've sorted our defensive issues out a little bit, but now Reece is gone. So I'm going to actually repeat my prediction from last time and say 3-1. Maybe I'm right this time. But hey, as long as we win, I don't really give a shit. It
is Jesse Lingard versus Aspie after all.
But does Jesse Lingard play left wing for them?
It's either him or that, what's the other guy's name? The Wales dude. Darn it.
Not a clue. But I can take a look what their last lineup was. In their last game, actually, Lingard did play left wing. I'm not sure who this...
Brennan Johnson. That's his name.
Brennan Johnson?
Yeah, he's Welsh.
Just the other winger.
Yep.
Fair enough. Hey, I had no idea who Brennan Johnson was, but fair play. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round this one out. Again, I say it again. Massively appreciate all of you guys that gave us your time on this evening. I wish you, again, the phrase doesn't exist in English as far as I'm aware, but slide into the new year nicely. I will wish you a happy new year tomorrow because we will be back, of course, for player ratings and live reaction live stream straight after the game tomorrow. So if you don't want to miss that, if you want to get involved, and if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. I think you guys have done super duper well after not streaming so much just before, obviously Christmas and stuff and before the Bournemouth game and throughout the World Cup. Appreciate you guys getting involved and being back here. I appreciate it a lot. So again, subscribe, smash the like button on your way out. Just one click of a button that doesn't cost you any money or any time. And it helps me spread these streams out to more people, and that's how us content creators grow. Please do a shout out to, I forgot to mention it before you left, but please check out Pice's website. The link is down in the description, chelseafc365.com. Check out Clutch's Twitter, follow him. He does tweet some random stuff, and he does also tweet some good stuff where you're like, Clutch made my day better today. So, follow Clutch, follow myself on Twitter, link down in the description. Yeah,
I was trying to figure out what you were talking about. I'm like, oh yeah, my mental health stuff that I talk about.
No,
like
exactly.
I tweet random stuff.
It is random.
I get it.
But, for people that don't know you, for them it's random.
That's fair. That's fair.
Excuse me. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round this one out. Thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards to numbers, and we'll see you in 2023. What a transition. What an ending. See you guys.